article brings up the topic of software bugs, specifically referencing a General Electric, or GE system that apparently had a software bug. It then questions the assumption that a new French system would be immune to similar issues, highlighting the inherent challenges in developing bug-free software. The underlying issue is that all software systems, regardless of their origin or manufacturer, are susceptible to bugs. These bugs can arise from various sources, including coding errors, design flaws, or unforeseen interactions between different software components. The article uses an old Irish saying, "Better the devil you know than the devil you may get," to make its point. This proverb suggests that it is often wiser to stick with a system that is known and understood, even if it has its flaws, rather than switching to a new system that may have unknown and potentially more serious problems. The decision to replace an existing system with a new one should not be taken lightly. It requires careful consideration of the potential risks and benefits. While a new system may offer improved features or performance, it also carries the risk of introducing new bugs or compatibility issues. Before making a change, it is important to thoroughly evaluate the new system and test it in a controlled environment to identify and address any potential problems. One must consider factors such as the complexity of the software, the quality of the development process, and the availability of support and maintenance. Regular testing and updates are crucial for identifying and fixing bugs throughout the software lifecycle. This involves not only testing the software in isolation but also testing it in conjunction with other systems to ensure compatibility. In addition, developers should adhere to coding standards and best practices to minimize the risk of introducing errors. When evaluating different software systems, it is important to consider the track record of the vendor. Has the vendor demonstrated a commitment to quality and reliability? Does the vendor have a good reputation for providing timely support and updates? It is also important to consider the size and complexity of the software. Larger and more complex systems are generally more prone to bugs. However, even relatively simple software can contain bugs if it is not properly designed and tested. Therefore, a thorough risk assessment should be conducted to identify and prioritize potential vulnerabilities. This assessment should consider the potential impact of each vulnerability on the organization's operations and reputation. Based on the risk assessment, appropriate security measures should be implemented to mitigate the identified risks. These measures may include firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and access controls. In addition to technical measures, it is also important to educate users about security risks and best practices. Users should be trained to recognize and avoid phishing scams, malware, and other types of cyber attacks. The decision to replace an existing system with a new one should be based on a careful evaluation of the potential risks and benefits. It is important to consider the track record of the vendor, the complexity of the software, and the potential impact of any bugs or vulnerabilities. Regular testing, updates, and user education are crucial for ensuring the security and reliability of software systems. This idea is applicable to various fields. For example, in the context of hardware, it might be better to stick with a well-known and reliable piece of equipment, even if it's a bit outdated, rather than switching to a newer model with unproven performance. Likewise, in the realm of personal relationships, it can be wiser to stick with a friend you know and trust despite their quirks than to invest in a new relationship that might turn out to be problematic. The core message of the proverb is about the importance of familiarity and predictability. When you choose the devil you know, you have a certain level of understanding of its nature, its strengths, and its weaknesses. This knowledge allows you to anticipate potential problems and mitigate their impact. On the other hand, when you choose the devil you don't know, you are entering into the unknown. You may be hoping for something better, but you are also taking a risk. The new system may have hidden flaws or unexpected consequences that you are not prepared for. Therefore, it is important to weigh the potential benefits of a new system against the risks of the unknown. A thorough risk assessment should be conducted to identify and prioritize potential vulnerabilities. This assessment should consider the potential impact of each vulnerability on the organization's operations and reputation. Based on the risk assessment, appropriate security measures should be implemented to mitigate the identified risks. In the context of software development, the proverb highlights the importance of thorough testing and debugging. Before releasing a new software system, it is crucial to identify and fix as many bugs as possible. This requires a rigorous testing process that involves both automated testing and manual testing. Automated testing can be used to identify common bugs and regressions, while manual testing can be used to uncover more subtle or complex issues. In addition to testing, it is also important to have a robust debugging process in place. When a bug is identified, it should be promptly investigated and fixed. The root cause of the bug should be determined, and steps should be taken to prevent similar bugs from occurring in the future. Another important aspect of software development is version control. Version control systems allow developers to track changes to the code and revert to previous versions if necessary. This can be invaluable for fixing bugs and recovering from errors. It is also important to have a clear process for releasing new versions of the software. Before a new version is released, it should be thoroughly tested and validated. The release process should be carefully planned and executed to minimize the risk of introducing new bugs or compatibility issues. The proverb also has implications for decision-making in general. When faced with a choice between two options, it is often tempting to choose the one that seems more promising or exciting. However, it is important to consider the potential risks and consequences of each option. Sometimes, the best choice is the one that is familiar and predictable, even if it is not the most glamorous. The proverb "better the devil you know than the devil you may get" is a reminder to be cautious and to weigh the potential risks and benefits of each decision. It is a valuable lesson that can be applied to various aspects of life, from software development to personal relationships. The article's point extends to other areas where complex systems are involved. For example, in healthcare, a doctor might be hesitant to prescribe a brand new medication with limited long-term data, even if it shows promise in early trials. They might prefer a well-established drug with known side effects and a proven track record. The idea is that the potential risks of the unknown medication outweigh the possible benefits, at least until more information is available. Similarly, in the financial world, investors often prefer to invest in well-established companies with a history of profitability, rather than taking a chance on unproven startups. While startups may offer the potential for higher returns, they also carry a much higher risk of failure. The investor who chooses the devil they know is opting for stability and predictability over the allure of quick riches. The proverb is not necessarily advocating for complacency or resistance to change. Rather, it's a call for careful consideration and risk assessment. It's important to be open to new ideas and technologies, but it's also crucial to be aware of the potential pitfalls and to make informed decisions based on the available evidence. In the context of software, this means thoroughly testing new systems, carefully evaluating vendor claims, and having a plan for dealing with potential bugs and vulnerabilities. It also means being willing to stick with a proven system, even if it's not the latest and greatest, if it meets your needs and is reliable. The key takeaway is that change should be driven by necessity and a clear understanding of the risks and benefits, not just by the allure of novelty. The article's focus on software bugs highlights a fundamental challenge in computer science. Software is incredibly complex, and even small errors in the code can have significant consequences. The process of finding and fixing these bugs, known as debugging, can be time-consuming and expensive. In some cases, bugs can even lead to security vulnerabilities that can be exploited by hackers. To mitigate the risk of software bugs, developers use a variety of techniques, including code reviews, automated testing, and formal verification. Code reviews involve having other developers examine the code for errors. Automated testing involves running a series of tests to ensure that the software is working as expected. Formal verification involves using mathematical techniques to prove that the software is correct. Despite these efforts, software bugs are still a common occurrence. This is because software is constantly evolving, and new features and updates can introduce new bugs. In addition, the complexity of software makes it difficult to anticipate all possible scenarios and interactions. The article's emphasis on the devil you know highlights the importance of experience and familiarity in dealing with complex systems. When you are familiar with a system, you are more likely to be able to identify and fix problems quickly. You also have a better understanding of the system's limitations and potential vulnerabilities. This knowledge can be invaluable in preventing problems from occurring in the first place. The article also touches on the issue of trust. When you choose a new system, you are essentially trusting the vendor to provide a reliable and secure product. However, this trust is not always warranted. Vendors may have different priorities or may not have the resources to adequately test and support their product. Therefore, it is important to do your research and choose a vendor that has a good reputation for quality and reliability. Ultimately, the decision of whether to stick with the devil you know or switch to a new system is a complex one that depends on a variety of factors. There is no one-size-fits-all answer. However, by carefully considering the risks and benefits, and by doing your due diligence, you can make an informed decision that is right for you.